So being able to validate your experience is crucial, especially in the transportation industry. So for those of you that have ever applied for a job, say on Indeed, LinkedIn, something like that, chances are the posting, they had a bunch of requirements that you had to meet. So it needed a number of years, some specific training, possibly a university degree or a designation. So in the medical field, for one example, to different professional fields, you need to be able to validate this information, often through a resume, having a copy of your university degree or some form of training, as well as different work itself. So the transportation industry, it's no different. Being able to validate your experience as a professional driver, super crucial for a number of different reasons. So first, this is how you highlight the various things that you've done in your career this far, but it also helps when speaking with future employers as they need to validate your experience for insurance as well as other things before they can even hire you. So in today's episode, I'm excited to speak with Caleb Krahn with DriverVerified. DriverVerified is a system built specifically to help professional drivers and carriers validate information ongoingly. So they ensure professional drivers can be hired and carriers can hire when needed. I also believe that DriverVerified is solving a major issue that's been going on for quite some time and possibly not talked about enough. So stay tuned. This is a really good episode. But first, I highly recommend that you check out DriverVerified. So just go to www.driververified.com. Check out the platform. It's super easy to navigate through, and they're solving a massive problem. Well, let's get to it. Caleb, honestly, welcome to the Truck Focus podcast. Super excited for our conversation today. I know we were talking off record here a minute ago, and we drive really well. I think we have pretty similar energy, care for people, and I'm excited to talk, obviously, to you about you, and also to introduce to my audience DriverVerified. I think today is going to be awesome. So welcome.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, I know it's awesome. I know it's an investment of time, but I'm grateful. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Perfect. So to start us off, why don't you kind of highlight who's Caleb and how did you come into the transportation space?
Sure. Okay. So my name is Caleb Krahn, and DriverVerified, our company, we're based out of Ontario, mostly kind of out of Waterloo. I myself live in Toronto, but most of the rest of our crew is out of Kitchener-Waterloo area. And basically, how did I get into it? When I was younger, I worked in construction and manufacturing, and that included, when I worked in construction, I did some rigging of structural steel, and I was one of the drivers I often discuss now as far as being a G license. In Ontario, it's a G license driver. To you, I guess that would be a class 5 kind of driver, and I was driving sometimes driving a heavy commercial vehicle over 4,500 kilos, and I certainly was one of those drivers not aware of the repercussions and all the procedures involved. And so, yeah, but then when I was older, I went into software, and I was working for a software company, and basically we were approached by a commercial broker with a set of problems that they were facing as far as adding drivers to commercial policies. And so we started working on that, and that was spun off into a separate company. And then, we've been developing it ever since and focusing on that. And that's kind of brought me, more fully into transportation. And here I am.
It's awesome. Yeah, I always think it's funny when someone starts off with, I did a lot of things I probably wasn't supposed to do, and now here I am. Because
Yes.
When you're in a space trying to help like you are, I think there's a lot of, yeah, I can relate to that. And then I call it insta trust, where you can be talking to, in this situation, a driver who's sharing some stuff, and for you, you're like, yeah, okay, I can picture that. Okay, yeah, I shouldn't have done that either. And then, yeah, you have a really good conversation. So I like that. I respect that. I don't encourage others to break the law by any means, but yeah, this was a long enough time ago that it's all good.
Yeah. That's right.
No, that's awesome. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about DriverVerified. When I first learned of the system and when you walked me through it, I made, I don't know, probably 200 notes of, oh, okay, yeah, just because I get really excited on the solution aspect as well as the uplifting part. And
Yes.
a lot of times professional drivers themselves and carriers can't really, I'll rephrase that. They don't value the experience as much as they should.
Absolutely.
And that was one of the biggest takeaways that I felt you guys really, you noticed, you saw, and you're fixing is, okay, well, we're going to really highlight the importance of experience.
Yes.
And again, I'm not going to take any excitement away. It's all you to share. That was one of the biggest things for me is I'm like, this is a solution our industry's needed for a very long time. And I'm just really supportive of it. So really well done.
Absolutely. That message is really central to our whole mission. Right from the start, it's that, we see drivers as skilled professionals. I mean, you're on the road, you are dealing with all kinds of situations, and that experience is valuable. And it really, drivers, it's so important to us that drivers see their value and understand their worth and treat themselves as professionals. It's not just it's not just a job to kind of fill the time. It is a professional career, and we feel very strongly that drivers need to be treated with respect, and they also need to respect themselves. And part of that is saying, hey, I'm a professional, and my training and my experience counts for something. And certainly now more than ever, I mean, with the need for new drivers just gets there's whether semantics about whether it's a driver shortage or pay shortage, that's kind of its own debate. But there's certainly the need for drivers. Commercial drivers has never been higher, and I think it's a perfect time for drivers to really come into their own as a accredited, recognized professional field.
Yes. 1,000% agree. And yeah, there's a lot of ways you can take the term driver shortage and have a lot of, I'd say, industry professionals, leaders in various forums that will share their opinion very passionately. And I'm like, I can agree with them all, because I don't think anyone's perfect. And I think because we're not perfect, we've kind of missed the boat for a very long time where, okay, well, if you look at the data from history, it's a clear picture that people, we need more people. But again, it's, the cause, that's up for a different day, a different discussion.
Absolutely.
But what, again, with that though, something that you guys are helping is you're helping that, because you're validating I think one of the biggest things we can do as industry leaders is really validate people and confirm, yes, you're as great as you say you are, with all humility, obviously. And again, that's something the platform does. So I'm just, again, I'm grateful for just the effort and the fact that you saw the need, because again, what you guys are doing, that's going to be one of my questions that I wanted to dive into through your experience. Is there a lot of people that say, oh, I didn't know I needed to validate that? Or has there been the opposite? It's about time there's a system in place so I can validate this. Like, how has your research been when we're talking validating experience and just that side of the conversation?
Certainly. So I have seen both sides of that, but I definitely hear a lot more of, oh, yeah, I thought that might be important, but I never really thought to save it for myself or thought about how I should be keeping my own records. And that is central to our concern, because there's the why of what we're doing is, I mean, it comes down to drivers lacking documentation, and we've got a bit of a perfect storm as far as drivers lacking documentation. Insurance companies are they're cracking down as far as they are raising their minimum requirements as to what they're looking for in driver experience. They're also increasing, their demands for being able to prove that experience. And it's in certain niches in particular, it can be really challenging to add drivers. I know kind of personally on the Ontario side out here, adding a driver to a dump truck policy right now is a massive challenge. Really, really, really big. I've even heard issues recently adding driving instructors to training school policies can even be a challenge. And so it's just, it's a bigger challenge, and it's not going to go away. Those requirements and everything are there. And I mean, the insurance companies have rules that they have to follow. They have to file their requirements as far as what their minimum requirements are to add drivers to a policy, and then they are obligated to maintain that. So I'm not trying to put the blame on insurance companies as far as them raising the bar. They have their requirements. They need to do their due diligence, and this is part of that. But on the flip side of that, the driver needs to be saving and be aware of how they can be able to prove their experience.
Yeah, when I think of driver verification, I flip it to the medical field. I flip it to any real trade, like an electrician, a carpenter, and it's all about prove it. How can you prove it? Prove it, prove it.
Yes.
And our industry shouldn't be any different. I think, with all respect, it's about time that there's an actual platform like yours where you can validate it and you can, as you go, upload documents. I know we'll get into the platform here specifically pretty quick, but I think you guys have really solved a massive problem that I think, well, transportation is normally last in a lot of things. Compliance is another perspective, health and safety, hours of service. There's a lot of things that are in conversation with government. And then it's really, I wouldn't say it's hard to get it across. It's just hard to enforce the requirements. And that's what insurance is doing. Insurance is saying, well, you're at risk right now until you prove otherwise. Okay, how do you prove otherwise? Well, driver verified. There's your solution. And I think, so it's a complement to the end game. And obviously insurance companies can't lose money, but public safety has to be number one. And that's really what I believe they're trying to do from the conversations I've been in, is let's raise the bar, like you said. And how do you validate it? Okay, well, it can't just be a napkin. It can't just be well, this is a text message from 6 bosses ago. It has to be in a structured setting, which again, driver verified. Hats off, you guys are rocking it. So I think, again, huge solution to probably a problem, like you said, oh, I didn't realize that was that important. Yes, it's very important. So I'm excited. And as you can tell, I vibrate and I shake my head a lot because I get like really into what you're saying. And I just really respect the platform. So good job.
Fantastic. Thanks.
Absolutely. So when did Driver Verified officially go live?
So we went live earlier this year, pretty close to the start of the year. But it was in a soft launch kind of form. We are now fully live, and we're fully functional as well. And we are still adding, more services and looking at expanding and how we can always improve. But we are launched and we're live and we're good to go. And, creating an account is free. That was kind of another element that we started out with. We wanted drivers to be able to come in and just, start saving your information. And and any information that is uploaded onto our website as well, all belongs to the user. It's not mined or purchased in any way. We don't have access to it. Only the user does. That was very important that we stay compliant with privacy legislation, because certainly, there's, privacy legislation is always changing, and we try to either maintain or exceed industry standards.
Nice, good job. Yeah, and congratulations. That's a big step, going from basically a beta to a soft to here we are, and it's a journey. So really well done. And it's, again, I like, so you're the second person, not in this space, you're the first I've spoken to, and I really validate Driver Verified. But I was speaking to someone else in cybersecurity, and that's what they said too, is it's not about meeting, it's about exceeding when possible. And I think that's super important in today's day and age. So I'm glad you highlighted that, because often that I've seen enough platforms where I'm like, you have no protection, or are you just gathering data to sell it? Like, you're really, like, it's almost fishy. So the fact that you can confidently highlight that, like, we don't own it, and we go above and beyond. I think that's just, especially to people listening, that your information's safe, and that's super important. Just, frauds out there and all that garbage where it's like, okay, it's safe. Perfect. There's no reason not to use it. And the fact that it's free right now is also incredible, because cost matters. Obviously, from a business standpoint, I know there's different things going on there, but from a consumer standpoint, and single owner operators to different drivers and stuff, we don't want to have the barrier of, I don't know, it's $29.99 a month. I like that that's where you started. And again, it's an expense for you guys, but really well done for seeing industry where industry's at. I think that's really valuable.
And we also too, just as far as kind of data compliance goes, we right from the start decided that we wanted all of our data to be stored in Canada and not transferred outside. That was at that time, this was early in the development. At that time, the NAFTA rules still applied where that was required. I know with the new, not NAFTA, but the new acronym that it is, I know they've updated and that's no longer a requirement, but we've maintained that all of our data stays in the country. And it's just another kind of security measure that we take.
I appreciate that. And again, you've said enough things already for me to validate and to preach basically from the mountaintops, just because I know the problem you're solving. And I think that's the more light we can shine on that is really crucial. But then the fact that you have all the pillars in place and all of the support and the thought in place to say, we're protecting you here, but we're also protecting you back here. I just all around, it's a really great solution, and it just speaks volumes to you and your team. So I think it's really something that we need to keep stressing on is you've thought of it and you're protecting people. So really well done.
Thanks.
So absolutely. So the platform itself, DriverVerified, where do you go to to sign up?
So you go to DriverVerified.com, and right there in the top right corner, there's a join now button, and you can create an account. We wanted to make it that creating an account was very easy and not daunting. So when you first sign up, just takes a minute or two just to add some basic contact information to create your account. And then once you've created your account, you can start adding your driving experience, employment information, that kind of thing. But we made it so that you can do it a step at a time. It's not like you sign up and have to immediately, spend however amount of time based on your experience it takes to fill that all out. We made it so that you could just do one little piece at a time. We also designed it right from the start to be mobile friendly, because that was very important to us. We knew that a lot of the drivers that we're working with and owner operators, they're not sitting at a desk beside a filing cabinet. They're on the road, they're waiting at a truck stop, waiting for a load or something. And that's when they could, log in and just throw in some of their information.
Awesome. Yeah, again, really well done, really well thought out. What is industry? What are they fighting? You're right. They're not next to a filing cabinet. They're next to a steering wheel, or they're, in different forms, but a lot of people obviously have a smartphone. So that's super cool. So when we're talking about the platform, the user friendly, super easy to use, what's the overarching process? So they create an account, and at that point, is it they take their phone and they start snapping pictures of different documentation and they create their own file? Is that kind of the process, or how does that part work?
Yep, that's correct. They basically, there's fields to input your information into, and then there's also document upload options available as well. And, we're document agnostic, so any form of document can be uploaded. I mean, ideally, a nice PDF is great. Scanned document's good, but the reality is a lot of people are just going to have snapshots, like pictures from their phone. And in that case, it all goes there. And it's all good to have. As far as the types of information we collect, we prompt drivers to collect as much as possible. Now, at the end of the day, the one piece of information that insurance carriers are always looking for as evidence of experience, they're looking for a letter of experience. Now, what is a letter of experience? It's a letter from the insurance carrier that denotes the driver who drove under a specific policy from a time period. And it also should have something in there about the type of equipment that they used as well. Now, some letters of experience will have more detail, some will have less, but they'll always contain, the policy number, the driver's license number, the date range that the driver was covered under, and ideally, they'll include something about the equipment. That is not always the case. It kind of depends on the type of policy it was, whether how detailed it is. But we also go beyond that. So we really emphasize to drivers, the letter of experience from the insurance carrier is really important. Like, try to get that any way you can. I've spoken to some cohorts of new drivers in driver training programs, and I just sort of, try to go over with them strategies to ask for those letters of experience. I mean, it's not easy because some companies may see a driver asking for a letter of experience as evidence that they're looking for another job. And this is a challenge, and I understand from the company side of it, you don't want your drivers poached off. And also, I should add, we are not a job bank, and we're not a recruiting service. We're data storage for drivers and for companies for their records, because we wanted to, provide a place for drivers to document this stuff. And what I mean too by documentation, again, there's this letter of experience from the insurance carrier, very important. And drivers should ask for that anytime they feel comfortable asking for it. I personally, I sometimes suggest, if you have an annual review, that's an okay time to ask if you'd be able to be provided with one of those letters of experience from the insurance carrier. Likewise, sometimes when companies are updating their driver files and because their insurance is coming up for renewal, that can also be a time for a driver to say, hey, do you think you could provide me with that letter of experience for my own files? I'd like to, have some evidence of that. And so, there's some strategies as to asking for that letter of experience, but we also encourage drivers to go beyond that, because insurance carriers do have their requirements as far as they want to see this letter of experience more than anything else. But the more information that you can provide them with, the more leeway they have. And so you're providing these additional documents. And by additional documents, I mean anything from, a big one is training. A lot of drivers work in positions where their company provides various forms of training. And I always encourage, especially new drivers, if you get any form of training, get some kind of certificate, anything you can to kind of prove that, hey, I got some, training under, whether that's, air brake renewal or anything to kind of provide more evidence of additional training and, just evidence of yourself as a professional who kind of is, part of continuing education. That's really important. And so, we encourage drivers to save any safety certifications when they're inputting information about vehicles they have experience with. We say, hey, if you have a snapshot of the equipment itself, add that. Even sometimes prompting them add a photo of the weight rating certificate. It's just kind of like, if the more information they can collect and evidence they can provide, it isn't, if they don't have any of the letters of experience and the carrier just isn't comfortable, the underwriter isn't comfortable with it, they won't get added. But if they've maybe got some, but they're maybe missing 1 or 2 letters of experience, that underwriter might be able to say, okay, well, I see, they provided me with, photos of equipment, they provided me with some additional training they've gotten, any additional information like that, that underwriter can have a bit more confidence and that could be the difference between the driver not getting added and the underwriter saying, look, we're going to have a surcharge for this driver, but we will at least add them. And that makes all the difference. So, we really try to encourage drivers, while you're at the job, try to collect any information you can to provide evidence of your experience. Because, as drivers move, it can be hard to get that evidence of experience after you've left the job. Sometimes you don't always leave a job on good terms with the employer for whatever reason. And, after the fact, it can be really difficult to collect that information. So, even if it's another one we always encourage with drivers too, is take a snapshot of the liability slip in your glove compartment, because even if they don't have the letter of experience, if they've got a snapshot of that liability slip, they've got the policy number, they've got the insurance carrier name, and to get that letter of experience later is not going to be as challenging because they've got that information already. So we really, try to basically, driver education is a big part of what we do and what we would like to kind of, continue to expand into, to just be educating drivers of like, these are all these different pieces of information that you can collect that are your property, that help document your experience, that help prove that you are that skilled driver. And, that also, there's kind of the insurance side of it, as far as you want to collect this to, be able to get onto an insurance policy. But then there's also there's a wage discussion there as well. If you're a driver that's able to say, I have all this experience and here's a whole bunch of, certification documents and, evidence of different equipment I've worked on, that can also be, be able to negotiate for a higher salary as well. And so that's part of it too. It's not just getting insurance, it's also compensation. So, all of it just adds to creating that professional background and giving the drivers the confidence to say, yeah, I've got this experience, I'm a professional, and here's all my documentation.
Powerful. Powerful, man. Yeah, it's so important from both, I'd say, a driver's perspective and a carrier's perspective to be able to show proof of training. And no carrier is perfect. I understand there's a lot of small carriers out there where their hiring practices aren't necessarily where they should be and or could be. But yeah, so aside from obtaining your commercial license, if you get your air brakes class, well, again, I'll speak Western Canada. I can't speak your language. No, I'm just kidding. But you get your class 1, your class 3, perfect. From there, there's always the responsibility of having some form of orientation. So that's proof, obviously. Then there's a requirement to be trained. So in Western Canada, similar to Eastern Canada, there's 4 mandatory courses that you have to be trained in. So pre-trips, cargo securement, weights and dimensions, hours of service. You're going to get a certificate of some kind. Even if it's in-house, you're going to get some form of recognition for your driver file. Hey, yeah, you took this training. You can actually, you're considered qualified and you can operate this commercial vehicle. So there's a lot of opportunities for drivers just to be diligent in form gathering, but it's like we talked about initially, it's solving the question, well, I didn't know I was supposed to gather that. Yeah, gather it. So drivers listening to this, if you're getting documentation from your current carrier, or you can access different information like Caleb just mentioned, please do, because it's for your benefit. Upload it into DriverVerified. That way, you know, okay, things change. Okay, no problem. You are set. And then you're helping your future employer make sure that you can get under their policies too, because that's becoming more and more of an issue. The 3-year requirement, the 3-year plus experience in this requirements, where how do you prove it if you don't have it? Well, yeah, like you said, it's really difficult. So, but yeah, I really stand behind everything that you just said. I think that's just such a good solution. So is there a type of driver that would most benefit for DriverVerified? Is it any commercial driver? And is there kind of, I guess, a limitation across the country, or are you coast to coast?
Perfect. Great question. So basically, yes, we are coast to coast, and there is no limitation on types of commercial drivers. I mean, certainly a segment that we see a lot of nowadays, as I mentioned before, the drivers with, in Ontario, it's a class G. For you guys, I think it's that class 5, right? That just, base driver, where you're driving a commercial vehicle, but, you are obligated to be following those commercial rules. And, you should really store your information as though you are a professional driver with an enhanced license. But even if you have that base G license, base, class 5 license, you still want to be saving this information. As far as types of drivers go, I mean, first of all, any commercial drivers can sign up, and we have 4 different user types that you can create an account under. So there's the commercial driver, there's owner operators who would both have that, same kind of information that they would want to collect and display as far as being a commercial driver, but then they can also enter information about their own equipment as well and have that on file. Then we have the trucking company kind of user type, but that really can be any company that employs commercial drivers and or has commercial vehicles. They add their vehicle information on there, and then they can also access their driver's information as well. And then there's the insurance broker user type, and that's basically so that an insurance broker can log in and can interact with their client and source that information, whether, a lot of times they're going to be sourcing that information from the company, but they could also, if they're communicating with the driver, they can pull that information, request that information from the driver, or the trucking company can request that information from their drivers if that's more their process that they do. And so, yeah, there's the 4 user types, and all of the accounts are free to create. And then there is, the cost comes when you pull the report that contains all of that information. And currently the cost is, our current pricing is just a per report basis. So it's $15 per report. And if you're a company adding, multiple drivers to your report, each additional driver is a cost of $12. We are adding a subscription option as well. And there will be different subscription options available for drivers, for owner operators, for trucking companies, and then for brokers as well. And that subscription then enables the party to pull as many reports as needed for that time.
Smart. Yeah, I was going to ask, how does it work on the flip side for the carrier's perspective? And I think that there's massive value there because part of the hiring process is long. And normally the background check is long, references is long, but then validating information, it's just from both sides, it's like, man, this takes way too long. Now it doesn't take long because it's a simple, okay, here's my $15 until I can become a subscribe member. And okay, I have all the information I need. Perfect. Yeah, let's move on. Instead of, hey, can you gather this? Oh, like again, no one's perfect. And I've done it myself where I thought I had everything in a file to realize, nope, that's in a different folder at home. All of that back and forth takes time, where you've really streamlined that process, as well as carriers have the opportunity, again, that are members and or subscribers, to upload things continuously because they see the value in validating. And I think that's also really impressive. Come renewals, when you're working with your broker, to say, well, everything's in driver verified. And the broker's like, perfect, thanks. They log in. Okay, perfect. And then it's really streamlined, which I think, again, is where our industry's going. So thanks for bringing us to the future. I appreciate that, because far too often, I have enough friends in the insurance space too, specific to transportation. And it's just like, and they got goose eggs on their forehead because they're just like, come on. But then the carrier's like, yeah, but I'm working this many hours, plus I have to do this and this. So I get that there's a lot, and you guys, again, are solving such a big problem that oftentimes you get that, like you said, oh, I didn't realize that answer. And you're like, yeah, the trickle effect in this is so huge. Like, I get so passionate about it because I'm like, thank you. You're really solving 3 people's day every single time someone uses the platform. So it's a huge solution, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, and we're looking for it to be beneficial to all parties involved. You know, it's something that, and I know there's you know, there's existing recruiting kind of programs in place and other data storage solutions, and they're fantastic. And this is just one, we would see it as complementary to others. You know, it's there and drivers can use it. And with that report, you can, you know, use that information to apply to whatever you need to be applying to, you know, whether it's to jobs, for insurance, but just to really, you know, be there as a solution for the drivers.
Awesome, man. Yeah, it's so well thought out too. And again, I'm an advocate for professional drivers. Like, I really try and speak for and speak to them in a positive light, because like you've mentioned a handful of times, and I really respect you for it, is they're professionals. And you need to make sure that you operate in a way, you operate your commercial vehicle as a professional. You also got to operate the background and your backside, I guess, of everything else, all your documentation, validation as a professional, and you're really giving the stage to do that. So I just think ultimately it's a massive win for our industry. And again, as insurance continues to say, show me, everyone else can now say, okay, no problem, because there's an option now instead of the napkin chasing and the text message chasing and stuff like that. So I think it's really smart.
Yeah, there's, and you know, the information is often collected out there, but it's siloed. Like, you know, a trucking company might have great record keeping, but that record keeping stays there. Or, you know, a broker, you know, there's brokers that do great record keeping as well, and insurance companies too, but the information is siloed. And so who suffers through all of that in the end is the driver, because really they're the ones that generally don't have the information, and they're the ones in the end that really need it. And, you know, one thing too that we try to emphasize is, and this is relevant to trucking companies and to drivers, but oftentimes these kind of documentation issues, they don't put, you know, some of them don't put a lot of mind to it until it's a problem. And when it's a problem, it's a huge problem. But then as soon as you've kind of got over that hump or solved that issue, you kind of, it's back of mind again. So we're kind of wanting to be there as like, you know, as a continuous reminder of, hey, you know, you have a little more experience, a little more evidence, you learned something new, you took some new training, hey, add it in, you know, and just keep documenting, keep that file keeping up to date. And, you know, there's, again, there's a lot of companies out there that do a great job with their record keeping. But, you know, whether they do or not, as a driver, you want to even if you know that your company does a great job with record keeping, you want to have it, you know, have some of those records yourself as well, because you know, when something happens, and you know, there's some pretty drastic worst case scenarios that we're all aware of, that you as a driver even want to say, hey, I've got all of this documentation so that, worst case scenario, you're involved in a court case, and your lawyer comes to you and says, okay, what evidence do you have of training, of experience? What can you give me? You can then, go into DriverVerified, and you can say, well, I've got all my training that I've done. And, you mentioned as well that, there's a lot of in-house training that goes on. And that one I find is huge as far as drivers not thinking to collect it, because again, you're working there, you kind of think, well, they just trained me in this. It's to their, they wanted to train me so that I can do this job for them. So it's kind of their issue. They've got the documentation. I'm sure I'm good. But as the driver, the more that you can save yourself, the more that you can be able to show other people to prove it. Again, then if you find yourself in one of those kind of worst case scenarios, you can say, well, I've done my record keeping. I've got all my documentation here. And that just adds peace of mind, I think, as well.
Yeah, it does, for sure. And so I'll twist it a little bit from a health, and there's multiple umbrellas in transportation. And first off, most carriers don't know they're a carrier. And why I say that is a landscaping company. So there's different GVW thresholds across the country. So you're very comfortable with 4501. That's in Alberta. We identify that as a federal carrier. Provincial, we're 11793, well, over 11793. So I always go to the example of, say, a linens company, a Purolator style company, or landscaping company, snow removal, those people that identify as what they're doing. And it's like, well, what is your vehicle? What's it rated for? They'll be like, I don't know, like 17,000 kg. I'm like, you're actually a trucking company. And people often do exactly that. What? And I learned that from actually an old director that I used to work under. And it was a very large company. And he's like, I identify as a trucking company. They identified it as equipment company. And he's just like, but we're a trucking company that hauls our own assets. That happens to be equipment. We're not an equipment company that put on little. And I'm like, okay, I get that. But then when you actually look at industry, most people define trucking, well, it's a semi and a trailer. It's like,
yes.
No, that's like maybe 30-40% at top. I'm like, look around you though. And once you start actually piecing it all together, that's why I say this is a game changer solution, DriverVerified, because all of those companies are required to have driver qualification files. And all of those drivers that are operating commercial vehicles are required to have this evidence to say, yes, I did this. So one day you're operating a tandem axle dump truck. Then you get upgraded to a dump truck and a pup. Okay, well, now you want to go over the road driving this. Okay, well, prove you have any experience as an operator. They'll be like, I don't know, they didn't keep that. They're a landscaping company. So that's where I see this being the ultimate value, because no, it doesn't matter what you want to identify as. You are this based off of law. And because of that, this is important. So here's my friend Caleb, sign up with DriverVerified, and now you're good. So that's where I get super passionate, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there. And
Absolutely.
In-house training. I don't know, they didn't give me a certificate. It's like, no, they probably just put your name on a napkin attendance and they put it into a file somewhere. Get a copy of it, because at the end of the day, you need to verify. Like you said, if you ever have to go to court, if you're ever even pulled over by law enforcement and you're like, I've never heard this language before. It's like, there's a lot of wins here, and I could go on this rabbit trail forever because I really care about it. So it's just nice to see the reciprocation. So
yes, and we're a member of Landscape Ontario, because that absolutely the landscapers, that's landscaping, and like the snow removal side of that as well is a big insurance challenge. And as far as insuring snow removal, that's tough. And I know it's I've been speaking to quite a few people in the industry, and it's just getting worse. I mean, it's a real challenge. And so if you kind of start out thinking of yourself right from the start as, okay, I'm a trucking company or I'm a professional driver, then you can kind of get ahead with the record keeping and stuff like that. Whereas, there's a lot out there that, they don't realize that they have these obligations to be collecting this stuff. And there's, again, we have, we're interested completely in long haul trucking and those that are, traditional truckers. But commercial driving is a lot more than just that.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And I can come up with so many opportunities for DriverVerified to be the solution. Just think of it. So those that are listening, maybe you own a landscaping company. We'll just stick in that space, and you do snow removal in the wintertime. Perfect. Really good revenue. And you see, okay, there's 9 new commercial buildings that I can do, and I need to buy 9 new trucks. So you buy trucks that are all identified as commercial vehicle. and then you spend, say, $1 million on this equipment, you brand it, it's sexy, everything's rocking and rolling. All of a sudden you're trying to hire and your insurance company is saying, nope, 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 nope.
Yeah.
And it's because you can't actually verify your driver's experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem. And that just costs that company, just for the assets alone, $1 million. Bad reputation now with these companies because they're not actually servicing the snow removal. And yeah, that's the trickle effect where, again, you've thought big picture, and I just get so excited with this type of solution. So it's like, yes, good job. So, but yeah, ultimate solution. And yeah, I just really appreciate your vulnerability, the fact that you've mentioned a lot of things that I think people don't really think of unless they're in the tech space, where they're like, oh, that's good to know. Oh, you're not stealing my data. Oh, you're protecting my data. Okay, it's in Canada. Like, there's a lot of wins there that you highlighted that like, I just know people don't normally think about until you bring it up. And then they're like, yeah, I wouldn't want my information in a country that I can't pronounce the name. Yeah, I wouldn't want you selling my data and my this and that's to so-and-so. So overall, really well done.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. And yeah, just when you mentioned the example of, so you go out and you buy a fleet of equipment, and then all of a sudden go to insure. I mean, I've heard so many horror stories like that where, operators go and purchase equipment with, they have a business plan in mind and they haven't talked in advance to their broker. And then they go and say, okay, here's my equipment. Here's some new drivers I want to add. And then they're stuck. And, we often, ask and look at, okay, well, what's the cost? And I mean, a cost of even a relatively inexpensive piece of equipment, you're generally, at the kind of baseline, you're looking at, you start around, maybe $400 lost revenue a day. And I mean, the limit can go much, much higher than that, depending on the piece of equipment, depending on the contracts that aren't being fulfilled. That those single days matter, and they matter to everybody. A driver, one day that it takes longer to get a driver added to a policy, they've lost their day's wages. The trucking company has lost their revenue. The insurance broker is, more labor. They're not getting their, their pay either. And ultimately, what often does happen when it drags on, a week or 2 weeks or something, trying to get a driver added to a policy, and especially now it's so competitive for drivers, oftentimes that driver is then gone somewhere else. So then, the driver's time was wasted, the trucking company's time is wasted, and they're back at square one having to go and find another driver. And the insurance broker, same thing. It's just wasted time, and everybody's losing here. And so, we're trying to make it as fast as possible that, if you're ready to, be added to a policy, boom, you've got, everything, or you've got 90% of what you need right off the bat.
Power, man. It's a life changer. And I like the term even game changer, because again, you've thought full circle, how is this going to impact industry? What's the problem? And it's the ultimate solution. So I just, really happy that we've been able to have this conversation too, because as you can tell, I get really passionate. I get like literally dizzy from shaking and agreeing. And just, I get really excited when people see the value in others. And I think that's the ultimate takeaway for today's episode is you and your team really value professional drivers, and you're doing something about it. You're saying, hey, this is something that you're up against. On the flip side, this is what businesses are up against, and we can actually solve this problem. So you just have my ultimate respect. And I think, we need to do more of these conversations to keep highlighting if it's growth, if it's advancement, if it's, hey, we're now subscription based and we're not per purchase based, anything like that, just because it's the ultimate solution. And you really have my support. I think it's phenomenal. It's really well done.
Oh, thanks.
Totally.
Thanks. Yeah, we're really excited to be a part of it, and I love what you're doing at PBTL, and really a lot of respect for your operation and everything that you're looking to accomplish.
Appreciate that. Yeah, it means a lot. I like the mutual relationship here. It's awesome. So as we kind of come to a close, was there any final thoughts that you would like to share, and also recap how people can, what website to go to and just all that good stuff?
Yep. So the website is DriverVerified.com. And again, any driver can go there, owner operator, trucking company, insurance broker. It's free to create an account. You can go and check it out. Also, your first report is free. So, if you're, still unsure, or you just kind of want to see or you do need the report, when you sign up, you always get your first report free. And that's also, you know, important to us to be able to demonstrate kind of what we do and give people confidence in that. And I'm, as far as being kind of accessible, I'm always happy to speak or meet with anybody with any questions. I'll provide you with my email address so you can post it there, but it's caleb.krahn@driververified.com. And we are active on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter as well. So I can provide those contacts for you. And yeah, and you know, if anybody has any questions or would like to discuss anything, please feel free to reach out. Where I'm always happy to share and discuss what we're doing, and you know, look at how we can work together to improve a lot of these things and increase drivers' education and, you know, professionalization. Like that's core.
Oh man, honestly, awesome. Yeah, so I will absolutely include contacts, social links, websites, and all of the show notes. Yeah, man, I will absolutely keep this. If those that are watching, they're seeing me literally push air because I'm so hyped right now. I absolutely will. So anyone listening, get in touch with Caleb. Honestly, get your drivers using this platform. If you're a carrier, again, if you identify as a landscaping company and you have a commercial vehicle, you are a trucking company, get on DriverVerified. And same thing to our friends in insurance. Definitely check it out. There's just so much value here. And yeah, honestly, just having a conversation with Caleb, it's super uplifting. So even if you just want to shoot the breeze, I will definitely suggest get in contact with them. I just really appreciate your energy. Like they're always happy. Like again, we've only had a couple conversations. I'm like, man, you're consistent. Like you're a rock star. So this was awesome.
But thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
So totally, man. But yeah, thank you so much for hopping on. This was a phenomenal episode, and really excited for the impact that you guys are having and the solution that you have. It's super powerful. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, have a good rest of your day, man.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Caleb, man, honestly, thank you so much for taking the time to hop on the podcast today. So much value shared, a lot of clarity just on the challenges that our industry is facing when we're talking about driver verification from a carrier's perspective, a driver's perspective, and an owner-operator's perspective, but also the insurance industry's perspective. So when a broker's trying to get a carrier coverage, making sure that they can actually validate years of experience and type of sub-training and what type of equipment operated. Talked about a lot of really good things, and I'm just really excited for just the solution DriverVerified is, but also yourself and your team, because you really value people, and that's what I'm all about. So again, thank you so much for hopping on. So for those listening, definitely check out DriverVerified for all of your driver verification purposes, from a filing standpoint, monitoring standpoint, and a communication standpoint. Just go to driververified.com. Sign up. It is free. And best of all, it is you can pull one report for free, which I think is a big win, because you know that you can actually test the system for free all the way through. So I think that's super cool. And again, Caleb, thank you so much for hopping on. So much value. So again, driververified.com. So for all of our dedicated listeners, I just wanted to say thanks so much for hopping on the podcast today, as well as if this is the first time you've ever checked out a Truck Focus podcast. Lots of value given today. Obviously, just Caleb's ability just to speak is really just passionate and really accurate, I think is awesome. And for those that can tell, I get super hyper. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you see my head shaking just because I'm in full agreement with just what DriverVerified is doing and with Caleb. So again, thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's an investment listening to our podcast just because your time is really valuable. And I just hope you got value from today. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, I do ask that you subscribe, you like it, you share it, because there's a lot of impact here. There's a lot of opportunities for drivers and carriers, owner operators, and insurance brokers to ensure that they can get the job done when needed. So it's the same thing. If you found value today, please like it, please share it. Same thing if you're listening to this on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the notification bell, and please leave a comment. Let us know what you thought. Let us know what the biggest takeaway was, because at the end of the day, this is for the industry. We're trying to create a pivotal change in the industry by introducing our industry leaders, just like Caleb, to industry. So please, again, just all of your feedback is always welcome. I'm super grateful for those that, invest more time into letting me know what they thought. And hey, what about this? Or what questions do you have? Because again, driver verification, so verifying documentation, verifying experience, it's becoming more and more of a hot topic to discuss, but it has been an underground issue per se for quite some time, where you have to validate. Do you have 3 years experience? Do you actually know how to do this? And again, DriverVerified is an ultimate solution. So just, yeah, again, Caleb, thank you so much for hopping on. All of our dedicated listeners, thank you so much. And then in closing, if you have not done so, I do ask that you subscribe to our monthly newsletter. It's called the Truck Focus Newsletter. It's just a different way for our industry leaders to impact our industry. So sometimes it's a promo code, sometimes it's a how-to, it's some really strong advice. It's just a different way to navigate our industry, so that way we can all be successful. So again, of course, all of the links are below. Reach out to Caleb, contact Caleb if you have questions about DriverVerified. Go to driververified.com, as well as all their social links, his email address, everything is in the show notes. Again, thank you so much for your time. Hope you have a wonderful day, and let's create a pivotal impact. Bye.